for those of you who are working at electrolyte companies and you want to learn how you can improve your influencer marketing campaigns, we're going to look at this research paper, which looks at what is happening in the market, what works, what doesn't work, and strategies that you can incorporate. Now, I'm Dennis, and I'm partnerships lead at Influencer Advisory. We're a data company. All we do is we help brands run better influencer campaigns. Diving in, we first need to understand that the main problem with electrolytes is the fact that it's commoditized. A lot of electrolytes are just giving salt. So they taste more or less the same. They look the same. They're powder. So it's very important to have the right type of influencer so people create the right association with your brand. That's the active branding. So that way you're able to sell at a premium and you're able to consistently bring in a long LTV from the customers at a low customer acquisition cost, at a low CAC. Let's start by looking at different segments of the market. So when it comes to the first one, we have sports and hydration RTD. So this can include brands like Gatorade, Powerade, Body Armor, Electrolyte, Prime, Hydration, Bastille, 100 Plus, Lycosade, Sport, Pocari Sweat. This makes up for over 11 billion in sales. So it's quite a big industry. Now, what happens here is a lot of the time creators are actually athletes and teams that are very sport specific. So there's actually some opportunity here to appeal to different segments of the market, especially more casual sports players. The second is everyday wellness hydration mixes. This includes Liquid 4, Hydrant, Cure, None, Ultimate, and a couple other ones. Now, just as a taking a step back, the reason I'm going through this is because when we understand that there's different categories in electrolytes, we can understand that different types of categories will appeal to different types of people. Now, within this, we could see also the opportunities for arbitrage. If a lot of sports electrolyte mixes are sponsoring athletes, this can create a window of opportunity for the amateur sports players as those are underserved. The same goes with everyday wellness. Perhaps there is some leniency, there's some opportunity to sponsor some creators going through postpartum, right? That could be a very good niche. So we got a bunch of people here. This is not as big as the sports industry, and there's a couple ways to get in contact with them. But then the last one is medical and oral rehydration. This is brands like Pedialyte, Drip Drop, Hydrolyte. And actually, fourth one is high sodium keto, carnivore, and personalized diet. So that's LMNT, Redmond Relay, Salter, Salt, so a bunch of other ones. So really interesting. Now, though, let's start looking at the creator programs that each one is running. The way we map these is people that have always on affiliate ambassador programs, paid programs, athlete or league sponsorships, founder-led distribution, retail sampling, or owned education community media, right? So we have all these different levels, and these are all important to keep in mind. So effectively what we can see is LMNT actually has ambassador program paid, and they have owned community socials. Now, some of the people that they've sponsored, Pedia Atia, Kelly Levesque, Katie Wells. Now, by the way, you can actually go ahead and take these same creators and sponsor them for your brand. Now you might be thinking, hey, like if people see this electrolyte brand sponsoring the creators, but then my electrolyte brand sponsors them, would that not create conflict? Potentially. What will happen most of the time, though, is you have a different value proposition that you're selling for, right? People buy you for a different reason, in which case you'll be able to attract a different segment of their audience that hadn't bought because they didn't resonate with that other company's value prop, the one that first sponsored them. Now we can see that they actually have sponsored over 2,600 YouTubers, which is a lot. And we actually have a free resource over here. If you come on over to influencer marketing examples, you can actually go ahead and click on brand map, and you can search pretty much any beverage or supplement brand, yours included, and I'll give you a ton of data. So in this case, we have LMNT here, and you could see who they sponsor just by clicking see all the creators and videos. This is all free, by the way, at this URL. You can see the people they rebook and a ton of useful stats. So we just use this as an internal tool to help us run campaigns with better data. So we recommend you use that. But effectively, let's look at some of the next ones. Liquid 4 actually uses a combination of everything. Something they're really focused on is ambassador seating and actually bringing in NIL athlete seating in, as well as campus athletes. So they've got a lot of schools that are actually activated, a lot of ambassadors, which has allowed them to scale the UGC system. So if you're looking to learn from an UGC based system, Liquid 4 or 6 actually is a really good example of this. Whereas on the flip side, right, LMNT was more focused on heavy YouTube sponsorships. That's some good reference there. Gatorade, what they were focused on was student athlete creator work, paid creator. I think Gatorade has basically everything. A neat little snippet is the fact that they ran a Pinterest campaign. That's not something that most people do, but it actually resulted in a ton of impressions at a really cheap CPM and a ton of feed clicks. Could be a really good value-based campaign strategy for people with tight budgets. With Body Armor, Kobe Bryant was actually a huge ambassador, as well as Jennifer Lopez. So what they did was use the celebrity approach, and what this led to was over 131% year on year sales, right? Or it doesn't show sales attribution. This led to 10 million, and they kept doing it year on year, which obviously meant they got a lot more than 10 million. So this is good if you want a really sustainable channel and a really reliable ROI, right? I spend 10 million, I get 20 million, very consistent, very predictable. Instead of getting a fleet of micro creators, which is high risk, high reward. And we have a couple other brands here I'm going to skip through, but they'll be in the description if you want to go ahead and check them out yourselves. Now, if we actually look at what worked and what didn't work. So the Liquid 6 athlete program basically had a couple of elements to it. One of them was a bunch of college athlete creators. They also had a really good system for recurring product stocks, as well as really good system for contracts and discount links. And then obviously rights to use a ton of UGC content. So the only way they were able to really make an impact on retail growth was because of the fact that it was all systemized and proceduralized. And what's interesting is the example of Waterboy actually was some founder-led distribution. So what they did was made an account which actually led to $65,000 in pre-sales and $18,000, 18,000 signups with the first video. And then this obviously led them to get scaled to 10 million in sales with this big of an email list. So one thing you could always do if you're on a tight budget is go ahead and as the founder, develop your own TikTok account, make a bunch of content. Very, very cost-effective way of doing things. Hey, so here's an example of what not to do. Prime was doing great, but then they really fell, and net profit just completely pummeled. This just happened because they didn't have a way to get recurring customers, and most of their launch was based around just product attention at the very beginning from a few celebrities. And what they should have done to actually understand the success and make some pivots during 2023, 2024, when they started going into decline, was actually start measuring retail velocity after launch, price promotional dependency, and then audience progression beyond the founders. So those things should have been a priority to understand how founder dependent are the brands. So I hope this helps you guys learn more about the space as an electrolyte company, make better sponsorship decisions, and be more informed about, hey, what's going on.